Hey everybody, it's Durger time, and thank you for joining me for a brand new series on the channel, Lucha Underground Resurrection. That is right, believers. It is a long time coming. This is a spiritual successor to a very short-lived series that we had on our channel called Azteca Underground, which in itself was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Lucha Underground. We were inspired by it by the announcement by MLW years ago that they were going to kind of try to reboot it. That kind of failed, and because of that, my save kind of petered out, and I kind of lost interest in doing it. And for a while, I wanted to bring it back in some capacity, and I didn't really know what was the best way to do it. And I realized what I really wanted to bring back, though, was Lucha Underground. So this is a soft reboot of Lucha Underground. It's not a season 5. This is a reboot. And I'm going to kind of go over the details on this. But first, if you haven't seen Lucha Underground, it was probably one of the most underrated cult classic wrestling promotions of the 21st century. Had a lot of inspirations from stuff like maybe like Wrestling Society X. But it was very bizarre. It was a Lucha Libre company that was based in America that was kind of partnered with AAA. And it was a focus of a blending of like a telenovela, like a gritty, serialized TV drama mixed with wrestling. So there were, well shot and composed TV style angles. It wasn't people in the ring getting interviewed and backstage promos with announcers. It wasn't pretending to be a sport. Instead, it was kind of pretending to be a TV show. So, there was high quality camera work and lore, tons of lore. There were characters that died. Everybody had a different character for the most part than who they really were. They were portraying even different versions of themselves than you see in the wrestling landscape and indie wrestling. Characters had supernatural powers and there's just a lot going on. It was the brainchild of Robert Rodriguez and Mark Burnett. Mark Burnett's the guy who did Survivor, and then Robert Rodriguez is obviously the director, and he also runs the network, or at least was a producer of some capacity. He partly is involved with the network that the show was on. Unfortunately, after 4 years, the network decided to close down the company. Until 2024. That's right, Saturday, week 1 of October 2024. Two people have decided to give it a go again. We have Conan, our CEO, and us, who is Chavo Guerrero, who was also involved in the original show as a road agent and comes back as well. This time as a booker. We're trying to learn from our mistakes, and the network has asked us to do a soft reboot. They want to bring back as many people as they can. They want to continue the legacy, but they need to make it for a new audience. So we can't do a season 5. We have to kind of try to strike the balance of being a brand new show while also hearkening back to some older stuff. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're doing a soft reboot where some of the characters carry over, some of the events carry over, some of them don't. And ultimately, we're trying to strike that balance between being a brand new show and a complete like a sequel, right? So we're not just rebooting it, we're kind of doing that soft reboot. Now, we are playing as a booker. That gives us some restrictions, one of which is owner goals. So let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. So our primary goal, obviously, is that we can't have fallen behind or below number 18 in the company rankings. We have a year and 11 months to do that. We only have a contract with our network for 1 year because every year the TV network decides whether they want to scrub it. Now, there's another problem here is that they own us. They own the license to this. So if we don't do well enough, they could scrub it from us, right? So it's going to be a challenging save. You can't hire any wrestler whose class is a powerhouse, and you can't hire any wrestler whose class is an MMA crossover style. Now, one of the other things I wanted to do with this save is I kind of wanted it to be relatively as realistic as possible within the back end. And what I mean by that is I'm trying to operate it like this company would, and with some of the restrictions that the game doesn't quite give us the ability to simulate, but is relatively realistic. And I'll explain that in a second. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, for the most part, where possible, our contracts are exclusively written. And that's because as a TV network, we want to have as many people locked in to contracts. And they're only in a year contract, which is probably an unrealistic one. We probably would do like a 3-year contract. But right now we're kind of on a provisionary situation with our network. They don't know if they're going to keep us next year. So they're not going to commit to contracts that are further along. There are some contracts that we don't have those for, quite a bit, but those are mostly contracts that we have either short-term or because we have some kind of cross-promotion kind of thing. So we don't have an official partnership with AAA, but we have a lot of their workers and things like that that are coming over. And that leads to the other stipulation has made it a little bit difficult for us, which is if a wrestler is on another nationalized television network first, we can't take them as a partnership. And the reason why, to explain that a little bit more closely, is this game simulates the exclusive written contract, but the landscape's a little bit different in 2024, right? So people are moving around a lot more, partly because of alliances and partly because of certain deals and first rights. So a lot of the wrestlers in saves don't have exclusive contracts, which would make it really easy for us to, for example, go into AEW and just take a bunch of people. I mean, so some people have exclusive writtens, but quite a bit don't. And it's because they're working other companies, sometimes their own companies, and sometimes, part of alliance companies, and that's just simulated. So it would be kind of unrealistic, though, to do that, because we are on a network television, where we're on cable, right? AEW would not allow in their contracts these people to work another national television show. So unless there's a special agreement, they can't really go on there. Now, that's only true for domestic, right? So, AAA guys could probably go anywhere, but they're not. They're going to be exclusive to Mexico in television rights, right? Same thing for theoretically New Japan and stuff like that. So, part of our stipulation is that if a person is working in a company that does have like a major television rights, so Impact or AEW, WWE, but they're all locked down, things like that. We can't take them. We can't even offer them contracts unless they're exclusive contracts, because they wouldn't be allowed to take those deals realistically. So as much as I would like to bring Brian Cage over, and I could certainly, despite him being a powerhouse and being against our owner's goals, I could certainly bring him back in to become, the man they call Cage and return to Lucha Underground, and he would take that deal. Realistically, he wouldn't be able to do that because he's on a competing television network. So we're trying to be realistic with that. There's a couple slight exceptions, and it's really mostly during setup, is companies that aren't actually televised, I'm being a little looser with. So Ring of Honor, I might have poached a few people, and you could take some people from MLW, because again, they're not really on a television network, so the rules are a little bit looser there. We also took some liberties of just a few perspective releases and contract changes in the world. So, I think we put for just upkeep purposes in 2024, Okada's written into AEW, and then some people have left WWE and vice versa. So one of those come into play, one of our big players that we brought in as a perspective for the sake of of this save. So I'm not doing any others other than this setup. We're certainly going to hire more people, but we have quite a bit. We have 40 at the moment, but this company probably needs quite a few people to operate. So with that said, let's look at the roster. Now, a lot of the roster don't have new names yet, and that's because I don't have them planned to be showing up immediately in episode 1, right? So some of these guys, like Elijah, right, we're going to bring in. We brought him on an exclusive contract. I don't know if I'm going to call him Elijah, because one of the things about Lucha Underground is that everybody can have their own story, their own characters, their own unique thing about them. So if you have an idea for some of these guys, like Elijah, that you think would be a cool gimmick and storyline or a name for him when he debuts in Lucha Underground, let me know in the comments, and then I might take the best one. Some of these guys may keep their name, like Bestia 666. He might have a different name, or it might be a slightly different name, right? But he might also still have the same name. Same thing with some of the AAA guys, like Arhannes or Arrow Boy or Aerostar may have their same names. Ace Romero is going to have his same name. So not everybody needs a new name to keep with how Lucha Underground was styled, but some people will have new names. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of the roster here, knowing that some of these names may change and their maybe personalities aren't final yet. So we have Ace Romero, we have Aerostar, Arrow Boy, who I believe is the sort of like next, I would say next generation, but he's not, because he's only a few years younger than Aerostar. We're bringing him in. We have AJ Lee, who got the wrestling bug, and April Mendez decided to do something in ring, and we managed to get her, and she is playing a character named AJ Pride. So there we go there. Angelico, who technically is working in Ring of Honor. This is sort of one of those fiddly ones I brought back in, figuring that, maybe if he's only in a Ring of Honor contract, he's open to other things, and maybe we can kind of lock him into something. I don't think he's in exclusive contract. He's just in a regular written. So that's one of the little fiddly ones we've done. In a previous test of this, I tried to lock everybody down into writtens, even ones that I thought we could easily get, and immediately we changed wrestling landscape for the better because every single company from MLW, Impact, New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, all of a sudden it started to drop huge exclusive written contracts with huge monthly prices on these guys to keep them. Even people that they were not using or would not be worth the price. All of a sudden, major names, or not major names, were getting major salary increases. So I was changing the wrestling landscape for the better, but it didn't help us actually get the people. So there's a little bit of fudging early on, but afterwards, going forward, we're not doing any of that. We have Atticus Koger, who's playing a character named Atticus Holmes. We have Bestia 666. We have Black Taurus, who, again, was probably one that should have potentially been signed exclusive to AEW, and I didn't update that because I haven't actually gotten confirmation one way or another if he actually is officially signed. But we have him in for now. Some refs. We have Katrina Carly Perez returning as her previous character in Lucha Underground. Chavo Guerrero, obviously, who we're playing as well as a road agent and potentially occasional manager. We got Willie Mack returning as the Mack. Again, a guy who's technically Ring of Honor, so it's a little fiddly, but for the open, we're going to take him. Daga, returning from later seasons, probably going to be a bit of a problem based on his personality. We'll have to see. Damian Drake, another person who I don't have a name for yet. So if you have a cool name or gimmick idea for Damian Drake, let me know. He's probably not going to show up for a little bit. So yeah, feel free to add that to the comments. Daria Cueto, returning as the storyline owner of Lucha Underground. So, which is weird because I think he was dead. And we'll address that, though I think he actually returned to life on the very last episode before they canceled the show. But we're kind of without going too into details, and you'll see shortly, we're kind of erasing seasons 3 and 4 and starting kind of as a soft reboot from season 2, and you'll see how that works. So a lot of season 3 and 4 don't quite matter. Not a lot of things really matter. It's a little weird, but we'll get into it. D'Lo Brown is joining us as a road agent and a potential color commentary member for us. We have Baby Extreme, who is reprising his role in AAA as the second Drago. Drago was a very important character in Lucha Underground. He's now out and about in the field as I think Inferna. He lost the license to Drago. Still wears the mask and stuff, and maybe he'll show up. But for now, we're bringing in the new Drago. Tejano Jr. returning. Obviously, we talked about Elijah. We have La Catalina, who I believe had a quick stint in NXT. She's portraying a character named Felina. Flamita is in, and I think just keeping his name. Also, I'm going to horribly butcher a lot of people's names, and I apologize to anybody that's watching that knows how to pronounce these names properly. I am horrific at pronouncing like Spanish names. I cannot get the pronunciation down. It was never an area of my expertise, so I apologize in advance. But we'll manage. We got the best Alabamian luchador, Fuego del Sol, is joining us in Lucha Underground. Gino Medina, which I think is going to keep his name. Ice Williams, who I believe is also going to keep his name. Ivelisse is returning. Jack Evans, also again, Ring of. I think actually no, he's out of Ring of Honor. He's only Angelico is returning as well. James Storm brings some legend contract talent to join us here. A released from Impact and free agent has now been locked down for a year. Sammy Callahan returning as Jeremiah Crane. Conan obviously owning the company, can do some manager work and do some road agent work for us as well. Marty DeMoth Martinez returning. Jeff Cobb returning as Matanza. I think, again, not in a lockdown contract because New Japan would have locked him down from us. So he is on sort of a freelance contract with us. Matt Stryker returning, actually having left AAA to do announcing for us exclusively. Max Stardom, again, not sure if we're going to keep his name. So if you have a name for him, let me know. Melina, same situation. Not sure if she's going to keep her name. Ricky Banderas returning as Mil Muertes. We got Enzo, Real One, deciding that, putting over Microman wasn't enough for Lucha Libre, and he decided to join Lucha Underground. Not sure if Enzo's going to be his real name yet, so let me know if you have a fun name, but I think he's going to be kind of a similar gimmick than what he is. He's going to be like kind of a rapper, so, not much is going to change for him, but maybe he has a different name. I don't know. We have Asalada, which is Lady Maravilla, was playing a character named Asalada for us. We have Ophidian, who is a former Chikara alumni, joining us to potentially do some, though he says just a road agent. He actually is supposed to be something else, but we'll fix that. probably mostly going to be a personality for us as a manager. So joining us, keeping the name. We don't have Prince Puma because some Prince Puma decided to lock down WWE. Now, I could have made his contract go up, but quite frankly, I am pretty confident that if I were to make predictions about whose contracts in 2024 are going to expire and who was going to leave, I think if Ricochet's expires in 2024, which I think it does, I suspect he will stay in WWE. I think he's making good money. I think he's comfortable doing what he wants to do. And so because of that, we cannot bring back the original Prince Puma. But a CMLL wrestler named Barbaro Cavernario, Cavernario, whatever, barbarian guy. He's got some great skills. He's got huge aerial and technical powers. He's not super popular in America, but he's got some notoriety. But I think he's the guy to become the new Prince Puma. So we have Conan managing him, and he is now assuming the mask. We have Rocky Romero. I don't know why. I didn't even hire him, but just like Rocky Romero in 2023 and 2024, he just seems to show up in places. So it felt appropriate that just Rocky Romero is here for some reason. And with him, who knows what will happen. But the king of sneaky style is here, and because he's everywhere. So, that's weird, but that's fine. Save Asaba is joining us as well. He is going to portray a new character. He's going to portray a returning character, actually. But I did not set him up so I'll set him up. But he's going to actually be our kill shot too. Because we also are definitely not going to get the original kill shot, who is one Swerve Strickland. I'm going to guess that he is very much not leaving AEW. So we will not be able to get him. But a new kill shot will be born. And based on his stats, this guy looks like he's the dude to do it. Huge aerial potential here. Obviously, we have some fog of war, so we don't know if he's on the lower end of this, but everything here is looking very promising. So we're going to push him as a major component here. We also have the new sexy star who has been portraying her, I think, for a couple years now. I want to say maybe 2 years in AAA. Lahija de Gatabela. Yeah, I'm gonna butcher all these. I'm not gonna bother. Sexy Star 2. The original Sexy Star is a horrible human being. Also retired. Also maybe in jail. I don't remember. But we have a new Sexy Star, so that's great. We have Matt Cross returning as Son of Havoc. We have Sonico, who might keep the name. I don't know yet. I'm not going to be in here right away. Here's our one big one. I probably should have just skipped it. Drew Galloway has decided to leave WWE. And somehow we got him. We got a big fat stack, and all of our budget went to him. And he's playing a new character named Tartan El Escocés, which I think, is self-explanatory. So, very interesting character that will be probably showing up by the third episode, I would say. But, yeah, so there's that. We don't have the man they call Cage, but we have the woman they call Swole. So Big Swole joining us. Reina Dorada joining us as a new character named Tigraja. We have Vampiro returning on commentary, and they have Very Morales. Again, not sure if he's going to keep that name, but not going to join us right away. But that's sort of everybody so far. So, overall, a pretty decent mix of roster members. The big thing I think is pretty obvious if you just glance through here is the popularity in America, not great. And that is going to be a problem for us. If you look at our product information here real quick, we do have a loosely enforced face and heel divide. We have integrated women's wrestling. and we are a grindhouse lucha libre. So what that means is that based around often quite dark storylines and characters, match quality is important, hardcore matches, and fast-paced, exciting spectacles. So, obviously, as a lucha brand, demasking is taken very seriously. We're expecting 80% matches, 20% angles on events. TV shows need to be 60% matches, 40% angles, and that's because we need more of those story elements. They're rated on a 40-60 scale or 60-40 on in-ring action and versus popularity, depending on which is more popular. So again, those popularity sinks are going to be a problem early on. We got to get these guys popular. That's partly the reason why we're bringing some people like James Storm in. I need to bring a couple more legends that are more noteworthy in America for short stints in Lucha Underground. Maybe somebody like a Rob Van Dam, right? If you guys got ideas of who might be a good fit to bring in that might have some modest to high popularity in America that we can use to basically pass the torch to some of our guys to get them more popular as quickly as possible, let me know in the comments. Rob Van Dam's an idea for me, James Storm, but we even, we could bring like a Scott Steiner. Nobody's off the table as long as they can take the contract. And they're willing to join us. So definitely some options that we can do there. Styles hard on workers, of course. Fans are open-minded, will accept any match, but matches need to be at least 10 minutes or else we're going to be penalized and not get those world-class scores. They'll be put up by cheap endings. They don't like countouts, DQs, sports entertainment finishes. They want bloody, hard-hitting matches. They'll take anything. They'll take barbed wire, flaming chair, anything, right? But they don't want the nonsense. Mild penalties to death matches, and then ultra dangerous matches that will be penalized, but pretty much everything else is open. Technical masterclass matches will get penalized as well because it's just a little too slow for the brand. And comedy matches, again, the production's a little too dark for that. So it gets a mild penalty, but the lightheartedness might not work for our fans. Other than that, we need storylines, we need gimmicks, we need one match aimed at storytelling, one aimed at hardcore, a wild brawl, a car crash, or mayhem. They will be very opinionated and will turn on workers that they feel don't belong. That's going to be a problem for some of our people, so that's something that we're going to have to deal with. And obviously, it's going to be very difficult to find sponsors. So money is going to be an issue. But other than that, pretty much a standard boilerplate here for Lucha Libre promotion afterwards. But that is the company. So a lot there going on in terms of where we're at. We're running a 2-hour show every Thursday. In my test save, I tried a 1-hour show and it was a disaster. So even though the original show was 1 hour, just based on the way the game works, it just wouldn't work. We would have like 2 matches and a bunch of angles, and it just wouldn't work well for us. 2 hours gives us plenty of room to play around with. Right now, we don't have many pay-per-views other than Ultimate Lucha, which actually is going to happen in, I want to say, March. We have to set it up because we're not going to have it in August. The show's seasonal, so it's going to have like 21 episodes, and it'll end at Ultimate Lucha. So we have to kind of count out those weeks. And then in there, we might have 2 pay-per-views before that. So we're not going to be primarily a pay-per-view promotion, but we are going to try to run 1 or 2 within there, and we'll announce them as they go. But we are going to be seasonal. So, and what that ends up meaning is that, we're going to have times where we're going to take off. We're basically going to have, probably a 3-month off window where from like March to maybe the new season starts in July, going in towards the new year. I had to count it out, but basically each season is going to be about 21 episodes. So something we're going to have to keep in mind is we'll have that downtime as well, right? So that is the story of our setup. I'm very excited about this save. It's going to be something very different from what we've done before. And I think some of the stories that are going to come out of here are going to be wild. So, with that said, we have a show in 5 days. Let's get over to it, and let's see what our inaugural episode of Lucha Underground has in store for us. All right, looks like we got some mail and some decisions we have to make real quick. Just getting some last minute contracts, and we're also trying to get the bunny in. Another person had this kind of drop that I felt like we could probably use. We were trying to get Macy Estrella, aka Lacey Evans. She got a deal with MLW. Now, the weird part is it was a contract that just a handshake contract. Like, can I not get you for an exclusive? Like, I would want to get her as an exclusive contract. Big star power. Probably pretty decent. Like, not great might work. Not honestly, not great in ring either. But popular name, somebody we could put someone else over, and like that was kind of the idea for me. Maybe we just do a written. MLW is not actually on anything, so it would not violate our weirdness with national televised stuff. Now, if we want to avoid that, what we need to do is we need to make alliances with people. So that's going to be kind of a goal of maybe we can get into the Forbidden Door, right? Or something like that. I did offer you an exclusive. Fine. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. Is I tried to offer her an exclusive contract. You're not going to take that, are you? I'm going to offer you exclusive written then. I don't need you. I suspect what will happen is MLW will come back with a big change. Now, our production is going to be shot to hell because we're small and everybody else is running these mega productions, and there's nothing we can do about that. So I'm not even going to bother being concerned about that. Just know we're going to take the L on that. All right, guys. Looks like we have some more decisions to make before we get to the show, but we are on the day. Some interesting weirdness going out of Dynamite right now. Adam Copeland getting online criticism for being out of shape. Looks like their show's running good, and Roderick Strong became FTW champion. So that's interesting. That's weird as hell, but sure. All right, our contract's in with the bunny. I'm gonna guess if it hasn't yet. I'm shocked that MLW didn't come back in with an exclusive, but we might be able to land her. Primarily, we're going to use her to feed to someone else, but that's, you need those. So we don't have a lot of those right now. We have James Storm, basically, to help boost up some people. Sami Callihan. Actually, let's look at who's, like, in terms of popularity, who's above 30 in the U.S.? Not a lot. Who's actually a wrestler is the other one. D'Lo Brown's not. So Elijah can probably help. Jack Evans might be able to help us. He's going to be a little bit slower because he's aging. James Storm. I said Jack Evans is going to be aging, and James Storm's 7 years older. But James Storm also a similar issue, but again going to be able to help us. Jeff Cobb might be able to help us a little bit here. Jeremiah Crane, Melina maybe as a possibility, though she's probably primarily going to be a manager. Mil Mortes is going to help us a bit. Drew's going to be huge, but Drew's not going to be putting many people over. I would expect Drew to pretty much be a central focus of this season. And the bunny actually might help us out quite a bit. We'll have to figure out what to do with her yet and what to call her, because she's certainly not going to be the bunny. Maybe she'll go back to does something else. Ali Bomb, maybe, I think was her previous name, right? We'll put that there for now, but I'm not sure yet. But she's not going to be here for the first episode. So again, if you got a name, let me know, or you got a gimmick, or she's a manager. Who should I put her with? Let me know too. A lot of this is going to be semi-collaborative, so certainly I'm going to be taking a lot of your guys' opinions and ideas. In the Discord after this episode goes up, there's going to be a little thing for Lucha Underground Writers Room. So if you want to contribute actively and talk about things, I'm going to be listening very closely to what people's ideas are, and they're going to be available right there in that Discord. So if you haven't, links in the description. Join today. All right, that said, let's get to the show. We do start off with a backstage incident, which is never a good sign. Felina was in fine form, kept everyone in a great mood. So, very good. And then D'Lo Brown and Damian Drake, I'm assuming some wrestlers' court shenanigans? Nope, been passing on tips to his protege. That's one of the reasons why we brought in Damian Drake, is he's got some protege relationship with D'Lo Brown. So potentially that could be helpful for us. I don't know. We'll find out. Locker room control, shouldn't be any issues yet. I'm sure there will be. Right now, Conan and Vampiro don't like each other, but other than that, relationships are pretty okay. We don't really have anything crazy. To try a positive relationship with Fuego. Didn't work. That's fine. And then we should own this, so we will run the temple. It can fit 850, way higher than what we need. But this is the sound stage that they're in. Is actually, I think it used to be like a warehouse or something that they retrofitted, but it probably does not actually fit 850. I had to look at it. It's probably 350, but maybe there's more behind the cameras than we can see. But we're going to run that here. That is our home base. We're pretty much always going to run it. Even though the price may be a little bit higher, it's actually not too bad. It's $480. There's places that are smaller that are a little bit cheaper, but this one's important to us, so we might get a bit of a boost through importance and being a hotbed. So that might be beneficial to us. All right. We have a show to book, so I will catch you guys on the flip for our first episode of Lucha Underground Resurrection. Believers, we are ready for the first episode of Lucha Underground. We have full 125 minutes, 2 pre-show matches to see what some of our talent is capable of, and a lot of storylines happening. Only Booker warning is that Sexy Star 2 was being used too much on the show, which is never a good sign. So, with that said, let's get over to the show, see what the debut episode on El Rey Network looks like for us here. So starting off in the pre-show, Asaleta and Tydraja are wrestling Bestia 666 and Atticus Holmes. This is not a storyline, nothing happening here. Pretty much totally dark match. I just want to see what their gimmicks get, which so far have all been pretty good, except for our referee. And then what their match capabilities are. Asaleta and Tydraja, not great. Though Atticus Holmes and Bestia looking pretty good. Actually, overall, got a pretty decent score at 47. So, not too bad. Same situation. One, this is just to get James Storm something to do. So he's not mad because he's not on the show, though his in-ring performance isn't great. Nobody's in this match is particularly good. Ice Williams is particularly bad, and that's something I kind of wanted to see. Is some of these guys, I want to see where they're at in their skill set to know where best to put them. Ace Romero looking pretty good at a 44, despite not having really a lot of popularity at all, which is good because we have a bit of a storyline planned for him shortly. In terms of gimmick. Apparently, James Storm, despite wearing a cowboy hat, not believable at being a cowboy, got a poor rating on that gimmick. Everybody else did pretty good on their gimmicks. Vocal crowd very unhappy with Ice Williams. So that's not great. Damian Drake, though, doing pretty good. Again, we still don't have names for some of these guys, so if you got some ideas, let me know in the Discord. But right now, these are dark matches, so just kind of get the crowd interested, give them something, give them another hour to be there, right? And also to see how these guys can develop and where their strengths are. Overall, though, 44s of 36s aren't horrible for us. That Ice Williams is pretty gnarly. We start off, for some reason, with Dario not in the intro here. So not sure what that's about, and it certainly, I think, impacted this segment. So something got screwed up here in the booking details. But that's fine. We'll deal with it. We'll roll with it. Let's go ahead and let's look at the intro to the show. The screen opens up on past important clips from Lucha Underground. They're shown almost in a foggy, dreamlike state with a haze around the edges. In between these scenes, we see flashes of cryptic imagery, all interlaced in the images. So we have, in these flashbacks, we see an Aztec calendar sitting on a table, a golden gauntlet being put on, what looks to be a phoenix flying from an inferno, and then 7 figures standing on top of a mountain, draped in shadow as the clouds roll past them in the sky. We then move the scene to Dario Cueto, the owner of Lucha Underground, sitting at his desk, a shadowy hand breaching the draped darkness of a doorway, holding a gun pointed at him. He's unaware. We then cut to images outside the window of his office that's overlooking the arena below, and we see 3 loud, bright flashes in the windows, and then we see Dario slumping over on his desk, dead eyes staring blankly, reflecting on a pooling red crimson blood that's kind of building on the desk. Then more flashes of different scenes. We see the calendar that we saw before glowing red after a gem is inserted into its center. We see a sky cracking above those 7 figures in an otherworldly green, kind of fracturing like an egg as something beyond reality is emerging. We see fire falling from the sky, decimating a city below it. And then we see Los Angeles on fire, being swallowed up by the earth. All the while, we hear sounds of people's screams bellowing out until they coalesce into a singular sound. Afterwards, we see another scene where the screams crescendo, and then Dario is jolted awake from his slumber at his desk. Screams faded away into the screeching of an alarm he set on his phone. He touches his chest, no bullet holes, no blood, sigh of relief as he looks over to the calendar. It says it's 2018. The screen fades to black with the words present day coming to focus. The camera moves and tracks an expensive pair of shoes walking along grime-covered cement. It pans up as we see Dario overlooking the dust-covered arena, his temple, a former warehouse turned into a worshipping place for blood sport. Still here after all these years, he wipes off the dust on the mat on the wrestling ring. He overlooks the ancient logo adorned the center. He's on a phone, on a cell phone. He says this, whoever he's talking to, yes, let them come. It's ready to begin again. He's having a conversation. We don't quite hear it, but we see his face kind of change change a bit. He's got the different grimace on, so he's kind of hopeful and excited. Now the expression on his face is paranoid as he hears something. He turns to it. He looks up as he senses a presence, and he sees like a shadowy figure of somebody, vaguely familiar, but hard to make out. They're standing up far into bleachers. He blinks, and within that second, the figure already is gone. It just vanishes in thin air. I don't know why these segments are doing so poor, because he does have good charisma. Something we'll certainly have to look at, because I would expect these to do much better. But certainly something we'll figure out as we go through. Afterwards, we see some more clips of Dario getting ready to exit his office. We hear the crowd inside the arena, so we know the time is kind of lapsed here. He's checking his lapel pins on his suit. He's straightening his tie. Over as he's kind of like combing his hair, we're getting a narration from him. And he says, "For generations, my family participated in a very special privilege. They hosted a time-honored tradition, one that's dated back to the Aztec people. An offering to the gods. Warriors from around the world came to our temple to offer their blood, their souls, sometimes even their lives, all for different reasons. Sometimes it was fame, sometimes fortune, power. All that and more was for the taking, if they survived. But something even greater, a true gift from the gods, for those worthy, was for the taking as well, even if they weren't aware of it. And so, it starts again. He steps out to the ring, his face overlooking the crowd back in the arena. As he cracks a wide, devious grin, he puts his lips to the microphone, and he says, 'Ring the bell.' And we start the show with a first match. And we have the returning the Mac versus another returning favorite, El Tejano, back in the arena, in the temple. In an exhibition match, the Mac defeats El Tejano in 12 minutes. Mac has a 53, Tejano has a 45. They both do great with their gimmick. And we start a little bit of storyline between Tejano and the Mac here, with a pretty great opener with a 50 here. This was a worked crowd match. The crowd doesn't seem worked, though, which is a shame, but we'll hopefully we'll get them there by the end. Afterwards, we see that Tejano is just kind of furious at the Mac. He's staring him down. Clearly, they're kind of building up a little bit of rivalry here, as he seems like he's disrespected by this match. Afterwards, we get an announcement from Dario, and he says that there's going to be a 4-way competition tonight in the main event. He's picked 4 competitors that have come to the temple to challenge each other, and the winner of that match will face a final 5th hand-picked competitor next week on a one-on-one match for the prize of the vacant Lucha Underground Championship. So, we have a 4-way. The winner of that will face another person next week, and they will become the Lucha Underground champion. We do have 3 titles in the company, all vacant right now. We have the Gift of the Gods, which is sort of like an interesting, almost Money in the Bank match card. Like, you can kind of cash it in. And we'll get into that later in the show, probably. We have the regular title, and then we have the trios title. So no women's, no tag, nothing like that right now. If we introduce something later, we might add something. But those are the 3 right now that are within the company. So Dario doing much better here on the mic than just in general acting. So that's good to see. In a match that's not great, and surprisingly, it's not Fuego. Fuego del Sol debuts in the temple with Arrow Boy. Arrow Boy does not do great here. He does get an adequate gimmick rating, which is nice. But Fuego gets a much better fan favorite gimmick. The crowd much more behind him. They don't click at all. This is not good. Fuego has some groundswell of public support. They're happy to see him here. This has non-existent crowd heat, though. Subpar wrestling. Fuego does defeat Arrow Boy. Yeah, it's not a great match, but 41's okay. At least we know we can do something with Fuego, but I think Arrow Boy's time here probably pretty short, because that's a pretty underwhelming match. Our requirement for a show is relatively low because El Rey owns us, but it's not absent. I think it's like a 35. So a 35 segment rating here is not great for us. We need to be above that. But if we're pulling in 40s and 45s, we're going to be in good shape. But certainly we don't want to be dipping deeper into these yellows here. Again, similarly, unfortunately, another yellow segment. We'll have to figure out why and who. But we have a backstage segment. We have a video playing. As we're kind of starting to introduce some of the players in our Lucha Underground. So, like, Lucha Underground has these whole segments where there's a lot of little video vignettes. And this one is probably the least, like, cinematic. This is just Ophidian sitting in the shadows, talking. He's holding a snake that's kind of wrapped around his hand. It's moving around. He has 3 figures behind him. And he's introducing his group, and he's kind of explaining who they are. And he starts to talk about Reptile. He says, reptiles used to rule this planet long ago, before even man, every inch of the globe. Before the gods deemed it fit that they needed to wipe it off, and through fire cleansed it and let man grow. Ever since, man's hatred for the reptile has been apparent in art, in movies, in ancient text and myth. The snake has been a symbol of everything evil to man. A temptress in the garden. A slitherer in the shadows. A symbol of deceiver, a snake in the grass, or the unseen assassin of venomous bite that kills rivals unknown. Why all this negativity to the poor reptile, the poor snake? Because it's all true. And now, it's time for us again to rise. The 3 other members of the reptile tribe join behind him as we get introduced to our first stable. They are called the Reptile Tribe. We have Ophidian leading with Daga, Jeremiah Crane, and Flamita behind a group that seems to revel perhaps in the evilness, the sinisterness, the deception, and kind of making that known. Unfortunately, though, despite getting some pretty okay gimmicks here for the most part, except for Daga, who kind of screws that up, a pretty low segment rating. Ophidian doesn't have a lot of popularity, but is pretty good on the mic, so I suspect it might be some charisma issues with the 3 of them. I don't think Flamita is not rated in this segment, and Sammy was rated on charisma, and so was Daga. So I'm assuming this is our weak link here, but we will have to see. Another pretty poor match, unfortunately. Again, trying to build up some of these unknowns. We have Drago 2 versus Killshot 2. It's subpar wrestling. It's non-existent crowd heat. Drago defeats Killshot in 10 minutes with a surprise cradle. Killshot 2 definitely has the better in-ring performance, but honestly, in a high spots match, I kind of expected more, especially seeing some of those stats. So it was a little concerning early on. Drago 2 is probably about where I would expect. But both of them, in terms of popularity, we kind of have to build them up. We'll have to see how this goes, and if we can kind of do something with them. But we really don't necessarily want to see 33s. 35 is sort of my bare bottom. And so this is definitely concerning for us. Afterwards, an equally concerning segment, as we may have to pivot out of this story because Drago and Killshot are there. They shake hands, this little sign of respect and honor. And we see Jeremiah Crane watching from the bleachers intensely. The fact that Sammy is pulling in poor like charisma numbers here is really concerning to like the inability for Drago and our new Killshot to do anything. Because this should be at like a 50 just by him being here, right? So that's not good. We will something we'll have to pay attention to closely, but we may have to pivot out of these guys. Another very poor segment, but it's expected here, let's say. We have Jordan Cruz. Who is Jordan Cruz? Nobody seems to know, and it seems to piss him off. He's wearing Ray-Bans. He's got a face that screams douchebag. He's self-assured, and you know it. He grabs that microphone. He lowers those glasses, and he says, I can't believe it's been a day, and I've already been overlooked. The Cruz is an icon in the wings, waiting to go. You know why I know that? Because everywhere I've gone, Gold's followed. In fact, I'm not in. The fact that I'm not in the 4-weight tonight is just ridiculous, and I'm going to prove it tonight. Send me someone to fight. And the temple obliges. We hear the sounds of thuds, just kind of boom, 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 emerge from the entrance. Loud huff and a snarl coming out from the corner. And we have Black Taurus debuting with a much better 51. Unfortunately, it's a pretty poor match. It's 15 minutes, probably too long. Black Taurus beats the crap out of Jordan Cruz, gets him in a submission. Taurus has a very good for his gimmick here. It got the crowd buzzing. The crowd was not impressed by Cruz, and that's fine. Why is that fine? Because he's not going to be around for much longer. Black Taurus is, after the match, we see him applying that submission hold. You know, Cruz, he's kind of pulling back on his back and his neck, and that sort of like a rear bulldog kind of thing. Cruz frantically just kind of slamming the mat with his hand. Ref rings the bell. Black Taurus is not letting go, though. He snorts and continues to wrench back more and more. Cruz continuing to frantically tap as he pulls back more and more and more, just until crunch. Cruz flops down onto the mat limp, and Taurus stands up, growling as smoke bellows out of his nose, and just walks away, leaving the staff to deal with the now lifeless body in the ring. So, unfortunately, the match itself wasn't great, but at least Taurus' part was pretty good, and we know he could pull a 51 for us, so. Another segment, oh man, these segments are just bombing for us. So, something we're going to have to deal with. Now, AJ is retired, but is currently acting as a manager for us, so maybe we can convince her to come out. That's the hope, but she's running a stable. And the segment, a little concerned about the segment, but again, a lot of these people they're not known in the area, so this is going to be a difficult beginning for us, right, as we kind of try to develop them. We see a scene at a bar. We have kind of a video vignette, and we see 3 luchadoras. They're sitting, having a drink after a practice in some bar in South Los Angeles. A group of, gaggle of drunk men come over. They're harassing all 3 of the women. Another woman from around the bar pipes up, and she simply says, I wouldn't do that if I were you. It's AJ sitting there, smirking in between her glass as she drinks confidently, watching the situation unfold. One of the men pipes up, asking why they shouldn't. That was a mistake. Quickly, the women dispatch the gaggle of men. The goons get toppled as the fight breaks out. Chairs are getting broken, people getting knocked over. Most of them end up fleeing. The loudmouth is now on the ground, pretty beat up. AJ stands over the mouthy one, putting the heel of her shoe onto his throat, and pressing in lightly, just to constrict his airway up just a bit. And she says, to continue I guess to provide the answer to his question, these aren't just women or fighters. They are killers. They are my killers. And they kill on my command. Consider yourself lucky. Not many people survive an encounter with the Prowl, and not many will be shown such grace again. So the four women dispatch, and they leave. They dispatch this guy, let him live. She gets a good rating, and not everybody else gets a great rating, I guess. But we have our three women's. We're doing a kind of a play off of the Kill Bill Viper Squad. We have the Prowl, so kind of based on Jaguars, right? Big cats kind of situation. Unfortunately, it does not do great, but we have our second stable that we're seeing to form here as we see a little bit of segments. Hopefully, we can build at least a couple of them up into competitors in some capacity, but initial rating not great. Similarly, a really bad segment. Again, we're struggling here really, really badly. We have a video vignette playing with Sexy Star. We see her in her hometown. She's helping people around with chores. She's a model citizen. Oh man, she's the most baby-face you could see. Beloved member of the community. She says in a narration, as we see pictures of her old childhood bedroom, including a poster of the original Sexy Star, she says, "Who we are, well, we are the heroes that inspire us growing up. That's who we take with us. Those people who inspired us, who faced adversity, they inspire us to become better people, to help those that need helping, but also to know when to fight and defend yourself and for the people you care about." We see some clips of some muggers fighting her at night, and her beating them up and stuff like that. She goes, "That's why I'm at the temple, to show that even in the darkest places, even the smallest light can shine brightly." So, we have the most babyface characters. Her gimmick gets good, but man, she's not good on the mic, not good at charisma, not good at acting. So hopefully her match, which is next, is a little bit better. Actually, not too bad. She's a 36, which isn't great, but Arhennis, who we added, kind of put her with, hoping to build her up a bit, did okay. It's decent wrestling. It had little heat, got the crowd hotter. It's crazy that we're looking at 41 and acting like that's a raging success, but so far with the first episode here, until we get some of this popularity up, that's kind of where we're at. So Sexy Star 2 defeats Arhennis in 12 minutes. Hopefully that helps her a little bit. Though I will say, a 36 at a start with no popularity in the region isn't the worst. So hopefully someone we can develop into a decent mid-carder for us. And we have our main event, which does okay. We have Son of Havoc, Jack Evans, Flamita, and the new Prince Puma, which she didn't do a little vignette. We should have done a vignette, but we kind of ran out of time. I should have cut a match down by a minute or two. But I think we'll get into who this is, and is this the original Prince Puma? We don't know yet, but we have Prince Puma, we have Son of Havoc, we have Jack Evans, we have Flamita. It's a pretty good match. Decent reaction from the crowd. Prince Puma defeats everybody in 15 minutes and ends up submitting Son of Havoc with a La Caverniera, which we're probably going to have to change. I got to look at what Prince Puma's finishing move was, because he should adopt it as well. Jack Evans was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everyone else's performance, which is actually pretty surprising. But looked pretty good. Prince Puma had a 55, and again, no popularity really in America. Flamita has a crazy 61. Jack Evans is a 42. Son of Havoc has a 54. So, Matt Cross, very, very decent. Yeah, Jack Evans kind of being the weak link here. We have a Havoc in the Sons and Daughters of storyline started here. And we have to fix Conan's alignment here. But 58 for our main events, not too bad. Afterwards, we have a little bit of breakdown as Jack Evans and Son of Havoc are kind of fighting after the match because of some stuff that happened in the match. There's tensions forming. We'll find out more about this, though. Boy, it didn't do well. So they're fighting their sequence here, which I think was set to. I don't know what it was set to, but didn't do great. So something also to look forward. But we do have a little storyline brewing, probably a short one between Havoc and Jack Evans here. And to end off the show, Daria Cueto comes out and just kind of quickly shows that Prince Puma's next match for the title is against a returning Mil Muertes. So, not bad. Prince Puma doing okay out there with a 41. So hopefully our Prince Puma is going to be good. We need to delve more into our Prince Puma in the next episode, find out who the hell is this guy. But I'm hoping at least we're over 35. Not really the epic start that we wanted here. 46. Actually, I'll take a 46. 46 overall is way higher than I thought this show was going to be. Our struggle is that popularity gap, but I think as we invest in these guys, we're going to see that problem dip, and we start to build them up, build their popularity in America. So that's sort of the goal here. Let's go ahead. Let's check out our notes here before we call it a day. We do have a contract. We managed to get Lacey in, so that is pretty good. We had a 41,000 viewers. Actually, not that bad for being on El Rey and not having a lot of visibility. So overall, I'll take that as a success. If you look here, like I said, minimum quality is 35, so we did exceed that, which is pretty okay. It's a small region in Southwest, so I mean, hopefully, what we're going to be seeing shortly is some of these guys building up popularity that they didn't have when they started. Because again, like Catalina here, popular in parts of Mexico, there's no real popularity here in America at all. A little bit when she was in NXT, but that's about it. And that's going to be the challenge of, can we get that Southwest bump up and try to kind of build up a little popularity. I don't know what happened with Daria Cueto should have excellent charisma. So it's kind of weird that those segments did so poorly. Because I would expect that. But again, maybe that's a popularity issue as well. So definitely going to be a challenging save for us. But that's what we're here for. So I hope you guys liked it. Like I said, though, we got ideas for characters, for hires. We still, we could definitely rotate people. As you saw, we already had one death. And if some of these guys continue to underperform, some of their deaths might continue. So, we're going to need some fresh blood. If you guys got ideas for people, got names, got character gimmicks, let me know by either commenting on the YouTube video or joining us in that Discord. Like I said, we're going to have that wrestling writers room for Lucha Underground up and running while this episode debuts. So you'll be able to join in there and, talk about your ideas for the stories, theories, but also just gimmicks, hires, anything logistical. So a lot to discuss about in the save as we kind of continue and go forward with it. But that is it for me today. Thank you all for joining me for this new series. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.